What is going on, everyone? Hope you're having a great day. Today we are going to be taking a look at MSI Afterburner and whether or not it is currently affecting performance on AMD graphics cards. The reason I am specifically making this video is because a few commenters had reached out to me on some of my recent videos, specifically the Crisis one, where I had tested that through the ages, through Crisis 1 all the way through Crisis 3. And originally I wasn't sure why people were saying this. I've never had any issues with performance in the past, but then someone had mentioned that they had heard Adored TV, a fellow tech YouTuber who's got an excellent channel. I highly recommend you guys go and check him out. I watch pretty much all of his in-depth analysis of what's going on in the industry and all that stuff. So someone had mentioned that he was talking about having a 10% performance difference when using MSI Afterburner with Riva Tuner as an overlay in his testing. So I wanted to go ahead and test that for myself because as someone that uses the Riva Tuner overlay in pretty much all of my performance videos, it's one of the key components of what I feel sets me apart from some other content creators out there, is that I like to show that side-by-side comparison. So obviously you can imagine if this were to show a big performance difference as large as 10%, that would affect a lot of my recent videos. So I wanted to go back and test that for you guys. But first I actually reached out over to Jim at Adore TV. Him and I talk rather frequently over on Twitter. I asked him, about, if this was true, everything with the performance. He said, yeah, he was seeing about a 10% difference when testing with his RX 580 and Ryzen 1800X. So I started there. I'm using a Ryzen 1700 in here, so for all intents and purposes, identical to the 1800X if the clock speeds are the same, so that's not really an issue there. And then I'm also using the RX 580. So I wanted to go back and test with no overlay at all, with MSI Afterburner and Riva Tuner completely shut down, with Riva Tuner on version 6.6, which is what I've been using in all of my testing. I'm not on the beta version, which is 7.0, which Jim had asked me if I was on the beta version. I think he is using the beta version, so I wanted to test with that as well, to maybe eliminate that as a possible factor if we're seeing it with any of those versions or when not using Riva Tuner at all. So we're going to jump in now and take a look at some of the benchmarks, but first I want to show you what I was doing in MSI Afterburner. So this is MSI Afterburner right here. I just wanted to show you the settings that I was using to eliminate anything else possibly getting in the way of our testing that could affect performance. So when I was testing with no overlay at all, or even with the overlay on, I wasn't using any additional adjustments in Wattman or an Afterburner. So when I had Afterburner and Riva Tuner going, I had the power limit at +0 and running at stock clock speeds, which is 1380 and 2000 megahertz respectively for the core and memory on the Red Devil RX 580 that I am using in this system. And then also in the additional settings, I also had my custom fan curve disabled, so just in case that was creating the card running cooler and giving us a small bump in performance, I also disabled that as well. So there should be no changes whatsoever going between having Afterburner on or Afterburner off. So we'll start off with Rainbow Six Siege here, where I was testing on the high preset with the RX 580, and this is all in the most recent drivers from AMD, which is 17.7.1, along with the Ryzen 1700, which I have clocked at 3.9 gigahertz, and we got the average 1% and 0.1% lows in here. So you'll see really not too much of a difference here. Honestly, all of these statistics are falling within the margin of error. We've got 132 with no overlay at all. We've got 131 with Riva Tuner 6.6, and then on the beta version of Riva Tuner 7.0, we got 133 average FPS, and not too much is changing in the 1% and 0.1%, where we got 101, 105, and 106 for the 1%, and then in the 0.1%, we got 102, 102, and finally 99. Now going over to the division, that is going to carry over pretty much the same story here. We got 82, 82, and 83 FPS averages on all of the different versions tested. Then we've got 52 on the 1% low for no overlay, and then 51 for 6.6, and 52 for 7.0. And then lastly, for the 0.1%, we've got 38, 34, and 37. So once again, within the margin of error, I would feel. Next up is Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Here we got on the averages the exact same average in all of the test runs, so 69 straight across the board, no pun intended. Then we've got 54 in the 1%, 55 for Riva Tuner 6.6, and then 43 in Riva Tuner 7. So we did see a fairly large drop there in the 0.1%, in the 1% low when using Riva Tuner 7.0, but it's probably just a one-off, honestly, and I wouldn't really look too far into that. As you know, with everything else being so even in here, I would say it was probably just an error in the one run there, but the average was still 69 in all of those tests that I ran. And then finally, I got Rise of the Tomb Raider up here, which got 92 and 92 average FPS with no overlay and version 6.6, whereas in Riva Tuner 7, it actually got a 1 FPS jump up to 93. So really, the story here is that we are falling within the margin of error across all of these tests. So with those results being what they are, I would say that, I think this is pretty clear-cut that we're not seeing any major difference in performance. When you're talking about 1 to 3 FPS, that really is the margin of error that can happen pretty much with any benchmark run. So I'm not going to have any, I have complete confidence in using Afterburner for an overlay in future videos, as it doesn't really look to be affecting performance here on AMD graphics cards. So hopefully we can kind of put that to bed, and I hope Jim does get the issue sorted out. He was telling me he just actually did a clean install of Windows, so maybe that'll fix it for him, and maybe he can mention that in an upcoming video. I'm not really sure if he's going to do that or not. But yeah, it looks like the issue is at least not in Afterburner or using a Riva Tuner overlay, so that's good news for me because I can continue using it in all of my performance videos. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here, guys. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're not already. And if you have been here for a while, you can always hit the notification bell to find out when I'm uploading new videos like this one. And I'll catch you guys next time. Ta-ra.